Hello, my name is Keith Prather, and I'm the Managing Director of Armada Corporate Intelligence, and we're strategic partners with NCM. And we wanted to give you just a very fast economic update, just to kind of give you an idea of really what's coming in the 2024 economic period. So one of the things that we're looking at when we think about 2023, there really have been three pillars of growth for the U.S. economy. So if you think about it as three legs of a stool, we've really been propped up by really strong consumer spending, and that's where most economists have really kind of gotten it wrong. We all thought consumer spending at some point in time in the year, with all the headwinds of heavy credit card spending and a lot of inflationary pressures and a lot of interest rate hikes, that consumer spending would drop off, and that didn't happen. And so we've been able to blow through most of 2023 without any challenges. The second component is non-residential construction. So you think about the building of manufacturing facilities and healthcare and all the infrastructure spending that's gone on. Non-residential construction spending is up nearly 18% year over year, on nearly $1.1 trillion in spending. So we think about NCM, dealer clients, think about customers and people who are buying vehicles. They've got really good wage income, and generally they've got a steady job, and so a lot of them are still willing to get into longer term kinds of debt commitments. And so that's one of the reasons why the economy's continued to be propped up. And then we have government spending that's been very strong, and that's been kicking in a lot of spending. And we know in 2024 that will continue, as well as into 2025 with the CHIPS Act, the infrastructure bill, and then with the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA. But all of that spending really starts to pick up momentum and starts to kick in 2024. So the whole construction sector continues to grow. Then government spending will also increase when we think about the defense sector and we think about other areas of the economy where we are going to see additional investments we weren't expecting. Defense alone is getting about $28 billion in additional appropriations that they did not have, in prior fiscal years. And that should also be kicking in. We should be seeing that as economic activity on the streets sometime in 2024. And then in Q3 and Q4, we had a very robust Q3 GDP growth rate of almost 5%. And then in Q4, as you can see, looks like it's going to come in somewhere around 2.4%, very strong. And a lot of that is also due to inventory building kind of coming into the peak retail season. So what happens to us then is we kind of get into Q1 and Q2 of next year, and we see a little bit of sluggishness in consumer spending. So consumers racked up a lot of credit card debt over the holidays, and they're going to want to pay that debt off. And so you see a little bit of slowdown in consumer spending in Q1 and Q2 because of that. Non-residential construction looks like there's nothing holding it back. It looks like it's going to continue to be strong. So that leg of the stool is going to continue to do very well. And government spending, as we said, is still going to ramp up as well. So we've got just a little bit of this softness, a little bit of sluggishness in Q1 and Q2, but it doesn't look like it's going to be that bad. It looks like the economy then will pick up as we go into Q3 and Q4 of next year, with the full year coming in kind of sluggish at about 1%. But I think for automotive dealers, there's still going to be a lot of opportunities in the marketplace to grow sales, and especially when it comes to higher end cars. And the reason for that is because we have right now what we're going to go ahead and start calling the K-shaped recovery. So in a normal economic recovery period, coming out of a period like the pandemic, we normally would see a V shape where you had a sharp decline and then you get a sharp rebound. Sometimes it's an L or a hockey stick shape where you get the big decline that happened during the pandemic, and then we get this slow climb, the slow growth back out. But what's happening to us right now is we're getting this K shape where we have an upper arm of the K that's actually doing very, very well. So we have a lot of upper income households that are making a lot of money. They're very wealthy, and it looks like they're putting a lot of money back in savings. Many companies also are fitting into this upper leg of the K where they're hiring, they're paying higher wages to a lot of workers. They're very profitable, and that's likely to continue for a lot of 2024. And then I'm going to flip to the bottom end of the K where we have this down section. And for those households that are earning less than $50,000 a year, those lower income sectors have always struggled, but under the weight and pressure of additional inflationary pressure this year, they're under extreme pressure. And so we see up to 85% of that leg of the economy right now living check to check and really struggling. They're just not able to get ahead and not able to pull their head up above water. Some companies that were really heavily reliant on borrowing also have seen a lot of their costs go up. their labor costs are higher, their input costs are higher, and they're seeing, more expensive costs for borrowing. And so that pressure is kind of creating some challenges in that level. We're starting to see a few bankruptcies emerge. But it's that middle segment of the economy that can account for almost 50% of the total economy. That is the middle income. These are households living between $50 and $100,000 a year in income. And even if you divide that in half, the upper level of that middle income segment, at least for the last year, has performed a lot like this upper income level. They're spending a lot of money. They're buying things like bass boats, and they're buying cars, and they're moving, and they're finding the wherewithal to be able to move into different homes. But a lot of them are still living pretty thin. They're living check to check, and the bottom segment of that middle income threshold is also struggling a little bit and tends to perform a little bit more like this lower income level. They really are struggling to get by check to check. And so as a customer base, there's a lot of pressure in that bottom half of the economy, and we'll look and see what happens to it in 2024. For automotive, I know that one of the key factors is interest rates. And here's what we're looking at as a forecast for interest rates moving into the 2024, 25, and 26 period. So right now we're sitting at about 5.25% for the prime rate, and then of course interest rates for auto loans and mortgages and everything else sit on top of that. But for 2024, we're expecting to end the year somewhere about 4.75%. So we're likely to get two 25 basis point cuts between now and the end of the year. We think most of those are going to come in the second half of the year. And then between 2024 and 2025, we see almost 1.5 points of deceleration in interest rates that will take place before we get to the end of 2025. Now, that period between 24 and 25 and this 4.75 down to 3.25, as interest rates decelerate, we'll see a significant uptick in purchases of things like RVs and automotive, trucks, farm equipment. We also see improvement in the entire construction sector. And so we should see a lift in the economy. We should see a lift in activity overall kind of when we get into this period, but there may be a little bit of a pause in the first half of the year until companies and until individuals really see the Federal Reserve start to make those cuts. So last thing we have for you, retail spending, which is about 70% of the U.S. economy. This is our retail forecast. And as you can see, this particular model uses about 18 to 20 different economic metrics. And so when we think about individuals out spending and hitting dealerships and thinking about buying, there's been some concerns that maybe the consumer starts to disappear a little bit. And I think maybe what's happened is it's more like they're taking a breather. So you see retail spending right now still looking like in the first half of the year, the consumer is going to stay very strong, and then retail sales kind of flatten out a bit. But if you look at it on a long-term basis, this is the long-term trend for retail sales. And right now, this total dollars of spending is going to continue to be very, very strong. And in these particular models, what we look for is statistically, is it showing us, what kind of bias is it showing us as we go into that latter part of 2024 and early into 2025. And right now, we don't see a lot of downside bias. It's kind of neutral, if you will. And so we think that sales kind of flatten out a little bit, but we still continue to be at this historic high level of dollars moving through the economy. And just wanted to give you that. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or anyone at NCM, and would be happy to answer your questions. But until next time, again, my name is Keith Prather, and thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it.